Hi folks, you're today your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a subject I raised actually a few days ago in another vid. It was about a sort of like a medium-sized commercial company, and a guy who was like the vice president or one of the vice presidents there, and guy about 40, I suppose. And he's doing a great job, and from a business or strictly commercial perspective, he's sort of everything any employer would want. But he's upset the minorities, the affirmative action and quota hires. Now, the CEO was just casually mentioning I've got to get rid of this guy because he's upsetting the minorities, but he wasn't clear on how this upsetting was taking place. But he did admit, hey, the guy's actually pretty good, but because he's upsetting the minorities don't like him. He's got to go. That end of story. Doesn't matter how good he is. And I thought, gee, is that how far we've fallen now in Western business practices, that we've got this sort of attitude? And the CEO he was talking about it so casually, as if he was talking about how he pruned the roses in his garden on the weekend or something. It was very matter of fact. Now you think it would be a big deal. Well, wait a minute, hold on a minute. You're responsible for a commercial enterprise here, and you're talking about getting rid of someone who's an employee who's very much a part of making it successful, and who, your own admission, you think's pretty good, but you're getting rid of him because he's upsetting the minorities, but he's not causing any commercial harm. Isn't getting rid of him going to cause commercial harm? To me, it was a big deal, but I had to tone it down. We do business with the guy, so I don't want to annoy him or something. So I toned it down, but still, I sort of asked the questions. Anyway, it's turned out that they've got rid of the guy, but they had a bit of a tough time doing it, because when you want to get rid of someone, you've got to have a reason, or pretend to have a reason, invent a reason, whatever, but you've got to kind of have a reason. Otherwise, the guy might drag you into court and sue you for serious money. So they can't get him on a performance thing. They went through his expense account. That's always very rich pickings in expense accounts. They went through his expense account, but couldn't find anything there. So he must have been a pretty much a straight shooter guy. Was he sleeping with any female or any member of the staff? No, he wasn't. Well, no, we can't get him on that. So is he looking at porn online while he's at work? That's often a good one as well to sort of dredge up. No, he wasn't. So, well, we can't get him on that. Gee, we're running out of things. We're going to have to get creative here, guys. So again, now this is the CEO talking to me in this matter-of-fact tone of voice that again, like he's talking about cutting the rose bushes on the weekend or something. So he's well, we had to go around, and they found, or didn't find, they know that there's a bunch of real straight white men hating women in the human resources department. And so there's no trouble finding a few of them to go around and do the dirty work on this. And their job was to go around, assigned by him, the CEO, who's straight and white, incidentally, was to go around and talk to every person that this guy, this VP guy, would interact with. Direct reports, subordinates, colleagues, suppliers, customers, the cleaners, the people working in the canteen, or there's a coffee trolley sort of out the front of the building. Talk to them, to find someone who could say something bad about him. Maybe it was an indiscreet remark, a ribald joke, or something, anything. It doesn't matter. When you're down to this level, then you can find anything. Hopefully the person will be a minority, a black lesbian or something. And then you can say, well, you upset the black lesbian. You're getting fired, motherfucker. You upset a black lesbian. So this was what they went and did, trying to find somebody. Now, just imagine this: if you're, for example, a customer of the company, and somebody calls you and says, "Look, we're calling you about Billy Bob, who's the vice president. How have been your dealings with him? Are you happy? Has he said anything indiscreet? Well, you can tell me. You can tell me. You sure he has? Are you sure he hasn't said anything? Do you want to think about that and maybe get back to me? And this is the sort of now. If you're a customer, what would you think of that fucking company? I don't think if it was me, I wouldn't think very much of it. Wow, those guys are fucked up. But I don't know how widespread. I think this sort of attitude and view of how you manage things, how you get rid of people, what you use, the devices used to justify getting rid of people, that these are commonly used. So maybe the person who takes the call with those sort of conversations, someone who go, well, gee, I'd do that. That's what I do when I'm trying to get rid of someone who's a really good employee. So maybe it's something that's kind of accepted, like all murderers or thieves together or something like that. It's just like, hey, it's how things are. But I was sort of rather horrified that and again, he's talking to me in this very matter-of-fact tone that this is what we do. And so they tried to find something, but nobody would come up. Not even the minorities would say, no, none of them would accept, or none of them would agree that he'd done anything wrong or bad or upset them directly in the sense of, using bad language or something like that. So now there'd been the senior managers had been in a meeting, and someone claims they'd overheard, 4-letter words, profanities being used in the meeting, and someone said that they thought it might have been him that said it, but they couldn't be sure, and so they wanted that person to sign a statement saying it was him, but the person wouldn't in the end. And I think they stopped short of bribing and offering inducements to people to commit perjury. They're probably a little bit too worried the guy may take it to court and challenge it, and then the perjury will be uncovered. But this was the lengths that they went to. In the end, they sort of just paid him out, so that we want you to go, and here's a shitload of money to go. But I was interested. Well, what has he actually done? Okay, you said he's upsetting the minorities, but in what way? If he hasn't done anything to directly offend any of them, hasn't used any, for example, racist remark or something like that, then what is it he did? Apparently, this is what the CEO tells me, that he held the minorities, the black lesbians and all the others, he held the minorities to the same standard of behavior and performance at work as he did the white people. So he uniformly expected everyone to do their job and do it well. Which is hardly a revolutionary act or anything that you consider would be a basis for someone to get fired, but it was enough in this, because the minorities, the affirmative action hires, the quota hires, they didn't want to be held to that same standard. They didn't want to have the same standard for punctuality or to be pulled up for tardiness, or they didn't want to be held to that. So we want the job, and we want to be treated equally in terms of the title we get and the sort of money you pay us, but we don't do an equal amount of work. And that was the bone of contention, that he treated everybody equally. And in the case of minorities and again, the affirmative action hires, that simply was unacceptable, and he had to go. And I think that is pretty much the state of business in the Western world today. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.